The hills of Southern California are once again ablaze. Flames consume dry brush and roar through canyons. Acrid smoke fills the air, turning the sky a hazy orange. This is not a scene from a disaster movie, but the stark reality for residents of Los Angeles and Ventura counties. As of January 17, 2025, these areas face an extreme fire danger warning. The warning spans an alarming 250 miles. Nearly 180,000 people have been forced to flee their homes. The current wildfires are a terrifying reminder of California's vulnerability to this recurring threat. The situation is dire. Firefighters are stretched thin, battling multiple blazes across a vast, parched landscape. The financial cost of this disaster is already staggering. AccuWeather estimates the potential damage and economic loss to be between $250 billion and $275 billion. The human cost, though harder to quantify, is immeasurable. Families have lost homes, businesses, and irreplaceable memories. The scars of these fires, both physical and emotional, will linger long after the flames are extinguished. One cannot understand the ferocity of these fires without acknowledging the role of the Santa Ana winds. These powerful, dry winds originate in the Great Basin and sweep westward towards the Pacific Ocean. As they descend the slopes of California's coastal mountains, they compress and heat up, creating ideal conditions for wildfires to ignite and spread rapidly. The current firestorm is being fueled by Santa Ana winds gusting between 40 and 70 miles per hour. These winds are not merely a natural phenomenon, they are a force multiplier, transforming manageable brush fires into raging infernos. They carry embers, sometimes for miles, igniting spot fires and widening the fire front faster than firefighters can respond. The terrain itself, a mix of steep canyons and dense chaparral, further complicates firefighting efforts. The Santa Ana winds, coupled with the region's topography, create a perfect storm for wildfire disasters. While the Santa Ana winds are a seasonal occurrence, their impact is magnified by a more alarming trend: climate change. California, like much of the American West, has experienced a prolonged drought. Since July, rainfall has been minimal, leaving vegetation tinder dry and primed to ignite. This drought is not just a temporary dry spell, it is part of a larger pattern of climate change-induced aridification. Scientists warn of hydroclimate whiplash, a phenomenon characterized by rapid shifts between periods of intense rainfall and prolonged drought. This whiplash effect is creating a dangerous cycle. Wet years promote abundant vegetation growth, which then becomes fuel for wildfires during subsequent dry periods. The traditional fire season in California has become almost year-round, stretching the resources of firefighters and increasing the risk to communities. Firefighters are on the front lines of this crisis, working tirelessly to contain the blazes and protect lives and property. They are often outmatched, facing firestorms of unprecedented scale and intensity. The Los Angeles County Fire Chief has publicly stated that there are simply not enough firefighters to handle multiple large fires simultaneously. This shortage of manpower is exacerbated by budget cuts, which have plagued California's firefighting resources in recent years. Adding to their woes, firefighters are contending with inadequate infrastructure. A 117 million-gallon water storage facility in the Palisades has been out of commission since February 2024, leaving a critical gap in firefighting capabilities. Moreover, $2.7 billion allocated for new water storage in 2014 has yet to translate into tangible results. The lack of accessible water sources hinders firefighting efforts and puts communities at greater risk. This combination of limited personnel, funding shortfalls, and infrastructure failures raises serious concerns about California's preparedness for large-scale wildfires. Section 5. Echoes of disasters past. The current wildfires are tragically reminiscent of past disasters that have ravaged California. In 2018, the Woolsey Fire tore through Los Angeles and Ventura counties, burning nearly 100,000 acres, destroying over 1,000 homes, and forcing the evacuation of 250,000 people. The Woolsey Fire served as a stark wake-up call, highlighting the region's vulnerability to wildfires. In response to this and other devastating fires, California implemented a system for pre-positioning resources. In 2024 alone, there were 1,774 instances of resource mobilization to combat wildfires. While this proactive approach is commendable, the sheer scale and intensity of the current fires have overwhelmed even these preemptive measures. The 2024 fire season saw 121 fire events that required resource mobilization, straining the state's firefighting capabilities. The current situation underscores the need for a more robust and adaptable approach to wildfire prevention and response. Section 6. A legacy of mismanagement? As the flames continue to rage, questions are being raised about California's management of wildfire risks. Critics argue that the state has not done enough to prioritize fire prevention and response. Budgetary decisions are coming under particular scrutiny. Some point to the state's investment in the incomplete and over-budget high-speed rail project as an example of misplaced priorities. They argue that funds would be better spent on bolstering firefighting resources, improving forest management, and supporting community preparedness programs. The debate over fire management often centers on the balance between environmental protection and fire prevention measures. While well-intentioned, some environmental regulations, particularly those governing controlled burns and vegetation management, are seen as overly burdensome and counterproductive. Critics argue that these regulations designed to protect ecosystems can inadvertently increase fire risk by allowing fuel loads to build up. They call for a more nuanced approach that balances ecological concerns with the urgent need to reduce wildfire hazards. Section 7. Navigating a tangled bureaucracy. Efforts to implement effective fire prevention measures are often hampered by a complex and time-consuming bureaucratic process. Obtaining permits for controlled burns, clearing vegetation, and implementing fire-resistant landscaping can take months, if not years. This bureaucratic bottleneck can stall crucial fire prevention work, leaving communities vulnerable while they await approvals. The current fire crisis has exposed the shortcomings of this cumbersome system. Critics argue that streamlining the permitting process for essential fire prevention activities is crucial. They propose creating a more efficient and expedited system that prioritizes public safety without compromising environmental safeguards. This would require a collaborative effort between policymakers, environmental agencies, and fire officials. Section 8. The price of prevention. Preventing future wildfire disasters will require a significant financial investment. However, as the old adage goes, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. The cost of fire suppression, while already exorbitant, pales in comparison to the economic and social costs of these increasingly destructive fires. Investing in fire prevention is not just a matter of fiscal responsibility, it is an investment in the future of California. This investment should be directed toward a multifaceted approach that includes increased funding for fire suppression. This includes hiring more firefighters, providing them with better equipment and training, and ensuring they have the resources to respond effectively to large-scale fires. Enhanced forest management. This involves thinning overgrown forests, clearing brush, and implementing prescribed burns to reduce fuel loads and create healthier, more resilient ecosystems. Community preparedness programs. These programs educate residents about wildfire risks, encourage the creation of defensible spaces around homes, and provide guidance on evacuation planning. Section 9. A call to action, rethinking our future. The current wildfire crisis in California is a stark reminder of the urgent need to rethink our relationship with fire. We can no longer afford to view wildfires as isolated incidents or solely as natural disasters. They are increasingly becoming man-made disasters fueled by climate change, poor land management practices, and inadequate preparation. Addressing this growing threat requires a paradigm shift. We must move away from a reactive approach focused solely on fire suppression and embrace a proactive approach centered on prevention, mitigation, and adaptation. This will necessitate a collective effort from policymakers, scientists, communities, and individuals. We must prioritize fire-resilient building codes, re-examine development patterns in fire-prone areas, and invest in research and innovation to better understand and manage wildfire risks. The future of California, and indeed much of the American West, depends on our ability to adapt to this new era of megafires.